What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another installment of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today, it is just me and our wonderful co-host, April Munson. And, this is kind of a non-traditional, I don't even know what to call it, segment that we've started doing on here where we've started doing these occasional check-ins. And we haven't done one since January with our post-holiday one. And really, I just feel like the both of us have been through so much since that time that we just felt like compelled to have yet another one and share all that's been going on with you guys. But not only that, but the value in it that we've both been experiencing, here just recently, literally up to this morning. So anyway, I'm going to open it up here a little bit between the two of us. I know April has so much to share today, but just kind of leading into that, I guess I'll just go ahead and pick one for you, and you can run with it from there. But I know one of the biggest things that we talked about that I feel like is super, super important, not that any of them aren't, but I just have to pick one of 9 topics that we went through before we started today. Anyway, is just growing into like your confidence, recognizing your worth, recognizing who you are, and kind of stepping into that role. And I just think that that's one of the most powerful things that you've told me about here recently, like of the change that you're going through, but like that we're still going through every single day. And I just think it's super powerful. And I want to open it up to you to just kind of talk about that experience, and also just, what you've learned about yourself in that time, and how exactly you're going to take that, like, as you move forward as well.
Yeah. So, since graduation last year, I can't even believe it's been 10 months. Like it's gone by so fast. Didn't really know what was supposed to be coming next. And then, both you and I got connected somewhat accidentally with Adam. And then we got connected very quickly right after that. And I think it's just been absolutely life changing for both of us. Just kind of having that happen, not really finding, like, when you find someone on LinkedIn and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go for that person to network with that person. I've heard you talk about that with your other guests several times about just like, reach out to the person and genuinely just ask questions and all those things. And I think that's just what both of us did with Adam, not even because he was anything that was super established. He was just an alumni, just someone that you and I both happened to reach out to, and it just, like I said, changed everything for us. And I remember he was like, I'm just gonna connect you with all these people and just say hi. And and I was like, just say hi, like what am I supposed to do with that, and it ended up landing me some job opportunities, really great networking opportunities. And there were like jobs within the networking that were not financially promised. And at the time, I was willing to really get involved with anyone, anything, because I have a personal passion of being able to say that I contributed to working on this really great project with this person. That's just something that I love to do. And it doesn't have to be about the money. I just really love collaborating and being like, oh, I got to contribute something to that. That's something really cool. Like I can build into my portfolio someone that I got to network with. And I still see so much value in that. But I even remember last summer, there were several times where, like you and I would have these calls, just you and I behind the scenes. And I was like, Erin, I feel so frustrated because I keep telling my kids that I don't have time to play with them or be there for them because I'm doing all these other things for these other people. And it's free work, but there's a value to it, but I just don't know what the value is for me anymore. And that was whenever I decided to tell Adam that I didn't want to do consecutive interviews anymore. And I was scared to tell him that. I felt like a quitter. I didn't want to give up. I was like, I really still want to be a part of this in some way, but I'm getting to the point now where I have to recognize my worth. Like it pushed me because I wasn't sticking up for myself at all. I was letting everyone else throw all these opportunities at me. And it's crazy because when you genuinely want them, even if you're not looking for them, just by getting connected with one or two people, like it comes to you. Like you've talked about it before too. Like the universe will listen and like give you what you're asking for in abundance, and then it's up to you what you do with it. And I've been called out several times for being a yes woman because I'm like, yes, I'll do anything and everything. I'm happy to do it. And then behind the scenes, I'm like, oh my God, why did I just do that? And then I end up sitting in the chair all day and then my kids need me and it was hard. So in any case, I've kind of been battling this back and forth push and pull with connecting with people, doing the work, shying away. People get busy and then I'm like not really upset that they're busy. Like I'll take the time away. Like if you don't have time for me right now, like no big deal. And it was in November where I was connected with a really great girl. And, it was another situation where she's like, "Hey, what are your rates?" And this was something that happened a lot in November and December. People kept asking me, like, "What's your pricing? What's your pricing?" And that was the moment where I felt like I started to finally take myself seriously. And I was like, okay, maybe I do have really great skills. And maybe I do have a service to offer that's unique to me. Whereas just before graduating, I had always told myself, like, I don't want to have my own business. I don't want that kind of stress, that kind of responsibility. And I think in my mind, it was like I pictured it as something way more than what it could be, because really I think having a business now is it's whatever you want it to look like. You can be a one woman show and run a business, or you can be someone that expands into a team, whatever that looks like. And you and I even got a lot of experience with that over the summer, trying to put a team together. And it's hard when you don't have money to pay, but you have this vision. And so many times I've heard you say, nobody will see your vision the way that you do. And then you question yourself and you're like, can I do this? Can I not do this? And so it's like, I knew at the time that I wasn't ready for all of those different thoughts. I just kind of really, like I said, wanted to get behind everyone else's really meaningful project, and I wanted to be able to lend my skills to that. And I had, like I said, in November, I'd been connected with a really great girl. I'd been connected with a really great gentleman in the real estate industry, and both were like, "Hey, even if you don't know what your rates are, how about we bring you on and we'll figure out money later." And I still wasn't really great at asking for money, but I got to the point where I was coming up on a year since I had left my job at an insurance agency. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't look back now and see myself sitting in the same situation where I'm not happy. I'm not making what I want to be making, and I'm still giving up all this time away from my kids. Like, something has to change, and I don't know what to do. So I called Adam, and I've never really asked Adam for anything. Like, I don't really go to him. I don't really ask a lot of questions, which I know some of your guests are like, ask questions, ask the questions. This was the time where I finally was like, okay, I need to ask a question. What do I do? How do I do this? How do I stick up for myself? How do I set rates? How do I even potentially respectfully break up from these opportunities, because I still want to be a part of them, but now I really know that I need to be paid. Like, well, how do I do this? And Adam was like, listen, I have a lot of opportunities for you if you want to work in this specific industry. If you want to make a video and say, I'm April, this is my this is my bubbly self, this is what I can do, these are my rates. And he's like, I'm going to put it in the Slack channel with Raise Masters, and he's like, I guarantee you're going to have 4 or 5 jobs by the end of the day. But he said, when it comes to who you're already working with now, that's really a conversation that, like, you're going to have to figure out. Like, tell them that you're so thankful for the experience. And he was like, no one's going to blame you for wanting to spend more time with your kids or being able to balance out your time well. He was like, people in this industry understand that money is what drives this whole thing. And he's like, if you tell everybody that you're worth this much, then don't be surprised when you're only making this much. And that really hit home too. So I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm gonna make this video. And naturally I put on this, and I couldn't even believe this. I was like, I put on this little pink shirt and I'm like, hi guys, I'm April, and this is the service I'm gonna offer you. And then I get all these real estate guys, in my inbox. They're like, hey, I could really use your service. Hey, what are your, I would love to talk more about your rates. And I'm like, I guess you really can be yourself and not have to be like in a professional like blazer and the whole thing, and just be like, hey, I'm here, this is me, this is what I can do. And then Aaron, that comes into like a whole nother thing where it's like you meet with these people and then you start talking about your rates and you can't giggle. Like, you have to take yourself seriously, but it feels funny because it's like, is this really happening? Like, this is how, like, what do I I get so like nerdy about it. So I was very excited to have that opportunity, but at the same time, with knowing my worth, it was very hard to have some of these conversations with these companies where I was like, you know, I've set my rates now, and this is kind of where I'm at. And I thought for sure that these companies would keep me and still want to work with me. And surprisingly, they didn't. And, no one tells you that 10 minutes after a call like that, you're actually going to feel better. Even if it's super hard to work up the confidence to be able to stick up for yourself and say like, I'm so sorry, this is what I'm doing. And maybe that even means you leave some projects hanging that weren't totally finished even at that time, because you're worth it. And I was willing to do it, and I was even willing to do it at a very low rate, just because I felt I didn't want to leave loose ends. And even after they were like, we don't have the money to pay for, to take keep you right now, but thank you so much, and we're so proud of you, and the whole thing, like, you actually kind of feel good, 10 or 15 minutes after that call, realizing like, hey, now I'm not responsible for these things anymore. I was honest about it. I told them exactly where I was at, and now I can move forward. So, very long-winded answer, but that's kind of just been like the full gist of the last 10 months of from that transition of struggling with the back and forth of time, and then in the matter of a week, setting your rates, breaking up, and like growing into your confidence.
No, no, I think it's super, super powerful just to like hear like where it has all gone. You know what I mean? Like, especially starting where it came from, where like, I'm trying to think the best way to like unpack it, where like you got to a point that like you were kind of coerced into like essentially starting a podcast and putting yourself out there. And like that was fine and dandy, but eventually got to a point that you were like, look, I don't really have the time or the energy for this. Like I do like it, but I don't love it. And like it takes a lot of time away from my kids, and the opportunity cost is too great. So then you get to a point that you kind of shift to behind the scenes, still in that role. Shout out to you. But but now like in a weird way, like you went from being behind the scenes to like the most exposed you've been yet. And I think that is like what's crazy about it, like because you took your time to kind of like, I don't know if process is the right word, but like you took your time to yourself to like grow into that and like develop the skill, develop who you wanted to become, and like hone that skill. And now like you're really like stepping out into the light, really stepping into that role. And like if you're not yet, you're going to be crushing it. And it's really freaking cool. And like that's what I'm just trying to say, like that, like that series of growth has been awesome to like to see and also be a part of. And like only more to come, but we won't really get into that. um I think one of the most powerful things for me was like as we were both going through this like whole transition, like I know you talked about like us putting a team together and stuff last year, like the power of having someone else like that I could like discuss everything with, like from someone in such an extremely similar position, was like the right word, like I don't know, like, but it was like extremely, extremely helpful for me because like you and I were in such an extremely similar position that we were then able to discuss a lot of those things and help each other through quite a few of those things. And obviously we've stayed close, and like
Yeah.
we're still doing that. We're doing that right now. Like the only difference is other people are listening in. And like it's just a crazy part of it, like that, like a lot of people either don't have that or don't know where to look for it. And that's where like I know one of the big things I wanted to talk about with you today was like community, where like you and I were kind of able to create our own little sense of community, just like in ourselves. I mean, yes, being brought together by Adam, but then like you and I got like very close, and we've like created our own little sense of like I said, like community. And like obviously that has continued to grow a little bit, but for the most part, it's really just been me and you. But like that's really all it took in a weird way. Like obviously we're both still networking on the side and doing what we can, but yeah, like I feel like seeing like the growth of you, and like we've both been able to play off of each other the whole time. Like anytime one of us needed something, the other one had it, or we were able to talk about it and everything
Yeah.
like that. It's just been super, super powerful. But that's where like what I wanted to talk about, and like a quote that I found yesterday that I really wanted to share today, was that confidence is contagious, but so is lack of confidence. It's a quote by Vince Lombardi, But like the reason I say that is because like literally studies show that whatever your three closest friends have as far as traits go, or whatever they're like, you will develop those traits too. Where like if you're hanging around people that are overweight, if you're hanging around people that drink, if you're hanging around people that overspend, hanging around people that cheat on their significant other, your odds of doing all of those things exponentially grow. Like because that's what the three people you're closest to do. But like
I'm
that
giggling
is
because
what
I'm
I mean.
like, are you going to start overspending now? Because I do. I'm pretty sure I buy from these boutiques every week, but that's besides
Gosh.
the point.
No, I'm not going to start overspending at boutiques, but no, like what I'm just trying to say is that the impact that your community can have on you is freaking profound. And like another quote, evil company corrupts good habits. Like we all know the quote, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Like
Yeah.
but like we don't realize the weight of it. Like we all know that the people around us are engaging in things that we don't like, but we hang out with them anyway. I mean, and then like the worst kinds are the ones that like we think are in our corner and we spend all this time with and we'll do anything for, but they're only really there for the same reason that you are. They don't have anybody else. And I mean, and then like as soon as you hit your stride, they turn on you. And that's like one of the most painful things, one that I've been through personally and one that I've seen a lot recently is like people, especially our age, are like dying, like clinging to anything left of a connection between people they have no business like even remotely engaging with anymore. But it's because it's the closest thing they have to what like you could call like a family, a tribe, a community, whatever. And they're just clinging to that, whether that's a sports team, whether that's an old friend, it doesn't matter. But like I just see it like in abundance recently, like just like toxic friendships and things that people have like no business being in anymore, but they stay there anyway because they don't have anybody else and they're too afraid to go out on their own and find something else. But what I have found in this situation is that people want you to be successful, but they don't want you to be more successful than them. And that is why, they turn on you in that position. People with no goals and no ambitions consistently invent drama. And I think, obviously we all know somebody like that. But the biggest thing, like I had to realize when going through that changes was that I was never really going to fit in with everyone. Like no matter what, I know I'm not going to fit in with everyone. Like I feel like that was one of the hardest pills to swallow, just because like I always wanted to be that person that could kind of fit in with anybody and be, friends with anybody. But like you eventually just get to a point that you realize like that's not logical or practical is the word I'm looking for. But so like eventually you try to like interject yourself into all these different like crowds just to feel like you have people. But like it just never sticks because it doesn't happen naturally. And it's not something that you're naturally interested in. But like,
Yeah.
sure you have a couple things in common, but like just because you see each other every day isn't enough. And like eventually you get down on yourself because like those friendships aren't working. You're wondering out what's wrong with you. You're wondering what you did wrong. But the truth of the matter is that like it doesn't have anything to do with you. And like I'm just trying to think of how to word it. I didn't mean to go off on this like so early, but like you get excited in certain conversations and you feel more comfortable around certain people, but like the hardest pill for me to swallow was that maybe I wasn't actually an introvert. Maybe I just needed better people around me. And
Mm.
like for me, like I said, that was absolutely the hardest pill to swallow because like I clung for dear life to those people that I felt like was my group. And like I know we've talked about this before, but just that like I was so afraid to step into something else that I stayed there for much longer than I should have. But like what I mean here and what I'm trying to like bring it all together is that like we wouldn't be able to do any of the things we're doing right now had we not stepped away from where we were before. And like until I completely got rid of all that baggage, like I wasn't able to start this. And like I'm more than happy with where I am now. Like, and I'm more than happy with the growth that I have and the growth that we're continuing to see, especially like the way we both continue to do so. Like I have way more here that I want to touch on from your story as well. But I just kind of thought that was a really good point to like segue into. And like now kind of shifting it back to you, like I want to talk about like how you were able to kind of like give yourself permission to step into this new role, because I know it was uncertain. I know it was something new. I know it was something you didn't exactly feel comfortable doing, yet you were able to say, you know what, like it's okay for me to leave this other stuff behind to become this new me. And that is essentially what I want to ask you about, just kind of how you were able to shift your mindset there to then, pursue this new role and opportunity.
Well, definitely going off of everything that you're saying before about community and the people that you surround yourself with and the habits and the traits that you acquire from being around those people, or eventually kind of having no choice but to break away from them when you finally start doing something for yourself because then they suddenly do turn on you, is something that I have experienced. And not even with friends, but more so with family, which is even more devastating because, just generally in your mind, you'd always think that your family is supposed to support you. And even if people in your family are successful in their, endeavor, which is a completely different industry from what I'm in, and you've supported them the entire way, it's like equally devastating when you're working some in a completely different industry and they don't support that success for you. And then like maybe they almost see it as competition when we're not even doing the same thing. Like if you really want to get into real estate and all of that bad, like come on over. Because I mean, and just from working in the real estate industry, it has nothing to do with even having a real estate background. It's just, I never even realized that the industry that I kind of got pulled into, that you and I both kind of got pulled into, has so much room for creative and artistic freedom because the people who are doing the syndications are doing like the muddy, sticky numbers and all of that. And then they need people like us that have that very different perspective to help show it and make it cool. So it's like, we don't even learn that kind of stuff in college about like the opportunities that you can have with all these different skills to be able to do well in an industry. And I know that's a little like that's a little bit more of a heavier topic than just talking about community, but I've certainly seen that. And for me, I know whenever I first got connected with Adam, I was in the process of launching my personal blog and really trying to understand my personal brand. And I had been so down on myself for the last 4 years because I really wanted to document my journey as a non-traditional mom going through college, starting into college back at 25 after leaving at my traditional age, going through life, having a baby, going back to college, surprise, having another baby in the middle of college, graduating, and all of that. And I really didn't capture any of that along the way. So I felt like, I was angry at myself because there's so much I wanted to show. But for who? For someone that I want to get like something out of what I'm saying, or for me? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wipe all that clean and I just want to start now. Like maybe and I need to talk about my story and my personal brand. And I've stressed this. And I think it's just because the way the world that we're in, especially with the pandemic, everyone is looking for a way to show themselves online and position themselves online. If I guess that's an industry that they're trying to go for. And I I was so inspired by all these people that I didn't know, and I could quickly tell that I was trying to become something that maybe I wasn't necessarily, even though I was inspired by it. But it wasn't something that I was putting all of my energy into. It was very much becoming much more like work. And I won't say that I ever used social media. Social media was never something that was like competition for me ever. Like I'm constantly saving posts of things that inspire me. I'm looking up accounts of people that inspire me, people that I feel like could be my best friend. And I love that. And I think I was just a little down on myself because I wasn't doing these things and I wasn't where these other people were. And I was like, but I need to figure out what feels like me. And that takes time and that's hard. It's very much like how you and I have talked about, like having to sit in your silence, accept all of the, breakage from the people who don't support you, the things that you realize are going to suit you or not going to suit you, being able to make the most of the circumstances that you have and keeping the energy and the momentum to do something with it, even if it's just something like one little thing every day, but not trying to outdo yourself for social media, for the computer, for the image of whatever. And I took a lot of time away from social media. I don't really post about anything. I don't even really share my kids much. I wasn't taking pictures. I was really sitting in my silence. I was networking with people. I was just listening to other people's stories and just taking that in. And it's taken a really long time. I mean, even over 10 months since graduation, because even up to the point of graduation, I still did not feel clear about, okay, well, this is graduation now. I'm supposed to have it all figured out, right? I'm supposed to know what happens next. People would expect that from me, right? Because I'm a mom, because I'm older, because I've had more life experience. Shouldn't I just know what I'm supposed to do now? No, not at all. I felt like a failure. I was constantly in my advisor's office, like, what do I do? What happens now? Can you tell me? Like, can I keep my job here at the school as a student? Am I able to stay a little bit longer? Like, is it like, keep me busy, make me feel like I have something going on? And the hardest part was breaking away. And I knew I was going to have to spend that time alone. And I was terrified of it, even with that degree. And I thought for sure, even at the age of 25, like, man, once I get that degree, I'm going to totally, like, I'm going to know exactly what happens next. And I didn't. So, like I said, I spent all that time alone figuring it out, working from home from last May until right now. And because I have taken the time, I've allowed those other relationships to fade. I have been patient with myself, only keeping an interest in the people who really inspire me, and maybe even traveling a little bit. I have traveled to Nashville and Bowling Green to meet some of these CEO ladies that I really, really that inspire me, just to say hi, just to have a conversation. Just like Adam said, I'm sending you these contacts just to say hi. So I was like, Jay, kids, get in the car. We're going to drive all the way there just to say hi. But really, it's so empowering, because it's like you see these people with all these numbers of followers and whatever, and you feel like they're so hard to reach, and really they're not. And just like in other interviews that you've had, it's like, if you really want to network with someone and you genuinely just want to ask questions, you're not trying to get a job or get anything from them, they will be willing to talk to you. And I just more like to do that face to face if there's an opportunity that presents itself. So I spent my time, I wouldn't even say getting uncomfortable, because it was really exciting to plan these trips just to go 12 hours away just for the day, just because, and then come back. And that made me feel like me. And then I started to have all this clarity, because I was like, this feels right. Like, these people feel like my best friends. This area feels like an area I'd want to live in. So now we're traveling, we're spending time together in the car, we're getting outside the house. I'm meeting different people. I'm getting away from the community that wasn't serving me. And then I'm keeping that community close knit in my social media circle. And then it's starting to give me so much more clarity about who is April. And maybe April is meant to cover outside the lines and do something a little bit more. I'm not meant to just go to college and get a job here. I'm meant to be able to work from home with my kids, wear several different hats, work with several different companies across several different industries, build skills. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, maybe now it's time for me to really build it into like an April brand and do something a little bit bigger, especially since I don't really have any of these negative voices of people who were in my community before, like looking at me, telling me I can't do this or I can't do that. Like, my community is and are the people that I look up to. And there's no reason that there's not a space for me to break into the industry that I want to be in to do the same thing. Because just like Adam has always told us, like, you are not, like, no one is Aaron Iler and no one is April Munson. And you come into the industry, whatever that industry is, and you bring something different. So I'm really starting to like own that power. But in the midst of working for 10 different companies, it's like, okay, now I got to prioritize, because I've connected myself so well. Now I really have to like schedule myself in to be able to build myself into what I want to do too. I'm sorry, that was a lot.
No, it's okay. I just feel like this is going to be one of those episodes, or maybe not even just one, but like this is just how it's going to go, because we just have so much to talk about, and we have so much passion behind where it's all coming from. So like 100%, like you're totally fine. But like what I really 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 love about it is just like the way you talk about like stepping into this new version and really giving yourself permission to be this new you, or not even necessarily new you, but the real you. You know what I mean? Like truly pursue what you want to do, what you see yourself doing, like over what anybody else has said. Like all old baggage aside, everything. Like it is time for me to focus on me, and I love that. What I can say about this is like in my personal experience, as well as like what you're just talking about, is there's unbelievable power in the idea of seeing yourself in someone else. I know when I was first getting started, seeing other young people out there making things happen is what truly was kind of like the last drop for me. What really inspired me to say, okay, it's time for me to get going. You know what I mean? If these guys are out there making it happen, if they can do it, why can't I? There's no reason. So that truly inspired me to do it. And that's why I really like the point that you made about, being inspired by other, confident female entrepreneurs and stuff. Complete side note, I was just in Bowling Green last week, but kicking that aside, um, like you have to find a way to like get yourself into proximity with people you want to be like. And I know in some cases like it's kind of not logical, but like who I'm talking about, and like if you take that step, that you give yourself permission. You don't know how many people are paying attention to you and how many people you are going to inspire to do the same thing. Like just as you're able to see yourself in other people are able to see themselves in you. And that's where I feel like like a huge piece of power is here, because like not only is your story freaking awesome, but like you continue to inspire me, and I know that you can continue to inspire other people as well. That's where I think a lot of the value is in doing this between the two of us, because we get to share all the things that we're actively going through, and like how we're learning from it like in real time. But anyway, like I'll tell you, like I'm still looking like for like some of this community. Obviously April's in it, but like we are still looking, for other people that fit these same roles. And like Adam has done a really great job in bringing other, inspiring young, entrepreneurs on here to the Dream Chasers platform. But like, like we're still cultivating that community. Like we know we're not going to find them right away, but like you have to really look for the people that jive with you. Like April said, like she found these people on the internet. Like she didn't know any of them, but she felt like those people could be her friends. She wanted those people to be her friends, and she did what she had to do to get closer to them, closer to their content, closer to their ideals and personality. So you find those people with similar drive, similar ambition, mindset, similar goals. Find those people that like think similar to you on certain subjects that actually matter. Find people that inspire you to think bigger. That is what I feel like that is one of the biggest things that I love about like this shift that you have been on, because like obviously you thought before, but like the freedom that you've given yourself to dream like here recently is just absurd, and like and not in a bad way. Like I mean like great. Like where before, like you said, you were kind of just getting behind other people's ideas, and like yeah, you let your creativity run a little bit there, but like you were confined to somebody else's idea. Where now like you've grown into this this role, I guess we'll call it, where like you are completely allowing yourself to run with anything that can be possible for you. And that's what I'm talking about, like just giving yourself that permission to step away from all other ideals, all other people's thoughts, all everybody, you got rid of it all. And now you're saying it's like, what could this look like for me in all aspects? And that's what you truly started focusing on. And that I think is like the really, really powerful part of it. Like, but like kind of bouncing back to my last point, like, whether it's through a book, whether it's through social media, a podcast, YouTube, whatever, like you can get yourself like into quote unquote conversation like with those people that you want to be like the more you surround yourself with those things, the more you're going to be like those things. Like we talked about earlier, like your three closest people, like you're naturally going to pick up what they're doing. So what you surround yourself with, like you start to envelop that as well. I mean, and like you said, like if you can get yourself into actual conversation with those people, that's the most beneficial. But in some cases, like I said, like it's just not practical. But yeah, like I said, you just really have to inspire, like not inspire, like you have to get around people that inspire you to be better. And that like is one of the things that like you have really started to do. And as you've cultivated that, like you've been able to grow so much recently as well. And that's where like I think there's a lot of power in what you're talking about. And not only that, but like one of the things that we talked about just kind of before hitting record here today, like you surround yourself with those people and the things they're doing, you start to feel more accountable to like what they're doing. You're saying like, oh, well, I should be doing this. Oh, well, I should be doing that. And you start to feel a little bit more of an accountability thing because they're doing things that you want to do, but you're not doing them. That's where, it kind of gives you like a virtual kick in the ass, if you will, that, like it really gives you the opportunity to kind of supercharge, like it's time for me to get moving, and it's time for me to start realizing these things for myself and for my family. And that's where like one of the things that you are like really, really doing right now, which is so cool.